Hello everyone, welcome to the Mobility Academy show, the only show where I'm going to interview for you guys the most amazing people from all over the world to discover the flexibility secrets and learn more about flexibility training. I'm the flexibility guy, Coach Elia, and this is the Mobility Academy show. Hello everyone, welcome to the Mobility Academy show. Look here who I have today. I have Joachim from Belgium, a huge and amazing flexibility coach, which I have the pleasure today to interview for Mobility Academy, and I'm really excited to know what he has to tell us. Now, hello Joachim, let's introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey man, what's up? So my name is Joachim, and who am I? I'm a guy that's been training most of his life, mostly through other sports. There was always something that caught my attention and I was pretty fascinated by. Big history in bodybuilding and strength sports. And then eventually I caught the bug, like flexibility. It's something completely different. It's hard. It wasn't easy, and it's still not easy, but something that was very, very interesting to me. You know, being able to express certain things in a beautiful way, and I made it, you know, my passion, my hobby, and then I started teaching it to other people, and now I coach a good number of people, mostly online, but also I travel, I see other places, I do workshops, and I met a lot of people, good practitioners as well abroad, who I now call my friends. So it's been very fun.
Okay, thank you. It's kind of a common thing that bodybuilders watch at flexibility, and they think about, oh shit, that's kind of crazy stuff. That's really fun. I want to do it, and they dig into it, and they just find themselves doing completely different things, and they forget about, okay, I want to get stronger, I want to get bigger, and they think only about, okay, I want to do the splits, I want to do the handstands, I want to do that kind of cool flexibility stuff, cause it's like a rabbit hole. You dig deep, and there's not an end to it. It's kind of crazy.
Definitely a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. Now, the first question I want to ask you is really interesting, because you said that you traveled a lot, you met a lot of practitioners, you met a lot of students, you met a lot of coaches, etc., around the world. And I want to ask you what you think about the current situation about stretching. So, what you think about what coaches, what the Instagram communities, the Facebook communities, all the people on the web are talking about. So, for example, there are a lot of methodologies coming from like the States, like the functional range conditioning, or there are there's some people who's saying, okay, you don't need to do passive stretching, because passive stretching is completely is not useful, is something you should avoid, and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of a lot of information coming through a lot of coming from a lot of places, and maybe people who are in a lot of communities can like find a clear path to follow, like, okay, what I should do to gain flexibility, like what I should do to reach a split, because a lot of times, like, people only want that split, and they don't care about all the other kind of stuff. They just want to achieve that kind of split. I met a lot of people who like come from the martial arts world, and they say, okay, I don't wanna like lose a lot of time, because I have my trainings to do, I have my fighting to do, I have to improve my skills, and I just need the splits. I just need to accomplish that kind of goal. And what should I do? And there's a lot of confusion. So I just want to ask you, what you think about it? What's your mentality and the way you approach that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things in one. first and foremost, the industry, it's a big industry and it's a confusing industry for sure. So definitely, if you want to have the splits or if you want to do nice things, it's very good to get coached by somebody. And this can be anyone. If you see a person that demonstrates things that you reason with, things that you like, they talk, a certain kind of way that you like, they have a good presence, it resonates with you. Why not go and contact that person and see if they offer something? And they probably have a good amount of experience ahead of you. They've been where you're at right now, and they can coach you and help you. So definitely, you'll have to pay the man, but it's normal. If you want information, you have to get coaching, and this is also how I did it. Look at people higher up, people who are further down the line. They are where you want to be, and just you learn from them. It's always a great experience, because I find in this industry, it's not easy, like finding the right kind of information, like a very good clear book. Like for me, for example, I'm a practical guy. I learn from practical experience. I learn from doing, from watching, from talking to people. But don't ask me to like read 5 books and I just can't focus. I do it the other way. And
that's really something. That's really the point, because a lot of time, like people ask you, okay, what kind of experience do you have in this topic? And it's like you can't prove anything to them, because okay, I don't have books to show you. I don't have like certifications, like I don't know, papers to show you. But I've been to, for example, I've been to the States, I've been to the Australia, I've been to Russia, I've been to, I don't know, and there with my own eyes, I saw people doing crazy things and teaching me those things, but you can't prove that. You have that
but
kind
that
of
is very valuable.
you have that kind of experience, which is huge. But sometimes there's a coach who have like, okay, I have this paper and
Credentials.
I have this credentials and I'm more and I'm better than you. And that's kind of crazy, because people often get confused by it. And as you said, don't ask me about the books. Ask me what I did, who I coached, who was my coach, etc. So really good point.
Definitely. And also you see a lot of people like and it's people are different. You have people that are deep into the science and deep into theory and maybe definitions even. I was talking with a good friend of mine recently. G Money Movement is his name on Instagram. You should look him up. Cool guy. And we were talking, in the fitness industry, there's a lot of fighting over definitions. This is mobility, this is flexibility, this is passive, active, static, whatever the term is. And you start fighting with each other over a certain term, but actually we all mean the same things. If I say flexibility or mobility intertwined, and maybe I say one, but technically speaking, I should have said the other. Like, don't shoot me. Like, you know what I mean. And
I completely know what you mean, Carl. I've written a book now. It's an Italian book, because a huge website here in Italy asked me to write a book. And when I was writing that book, I was kind of afraid. I was saying like, okay, now here I need to write active stretching, and okay, now people will think about, oh, what the fuck is active stretching? You can't write active stretching, because active stretching is this and mobility is this, and you can talk about flexibility if you don't talk about mobility and all this kind of stuff. There's a huge confusion here, and this is what I call like the hyper scientification of the topic. So where science,
Yeah.
I think that there are topics where you need to talk with a scientific language. I don't know, biology and all this kind of stuff. You need to talk about science. But stretching
Hmm.
is like, first of all, a practical discipline. So
Hmm.
you need to know, yeah, you need to know the science, you need to know the theory, but then you need to also apply those things you learn to something, like to improve the splits,
Definitely.
to improve the shoulders, to improve the thoracic spine, to improve whatever you want. But you need to apply these concepts, and most of the time, what you find is that something that doesn't exist in theory does exist in practice, and it's huge.
Definitely.
It's working. It's something that is like improving the flexibility and the life of certain persons and of the people, but you can't find it in theory. So you can study a lot, you can go over like a ton of terms, like I know the difference between mobility and flexibility, okay, but what you do when you know that, it's something
Hmm.
that doesn't bring you to your goals or to improve your flexibility level, etc. You need to practice. So as you
I
said,
would say so,
it's,
yes.
yeah, it's something really important.
Hmm.
So now, about this kind of things, we talked once about the overcoming isometrics, and you like introduced to me this kind of stretching methodology. Because in stretching there are a lot of methodologies. You can do a lot of things. You know, you can practice in many different ways. You can stretch in that way, passive stretching, PNF, etc. There are a lot of stretching methodologies, and you introduced me to overcoming isometrics, and in that moment I said, okay, what is this? What is this like methodology? I don't know that. I know the antagonist contraction during stretching, which is squeezing the opposite muscles to the ones involved in a stretching position. But from what you taught me, it's not that kind of the same thing. But I wanna ask you, like, may you like explain to me and also to our viewers what are the overcoming isometrics and why you should use them to improve your flexibility level?
Okay, yeah, it's again one of many techniques that you can use. And first and foremost, it's safe. It's very, you have different contractions. You the move, it's a static contraction. So because it is trying to move an immovable object, is essentially what it is. It has a little less of an inflammatory response than like the moving contractions, the concentrics and the eccentrics. So it is a safe way of doing things, and it's therefore very good for beginners. But to overcome the stretch reflex in a safe manner, but definitely not only for beginners, because you can really drive and push hard, and as an advanced athlete get a lot of benefits from it. So essentially, if I move a certain joint, I have my wrist joint here, and I can extend my wrist backwards and I can flex my wrist forward. So if I flex my wrist forward, let's say if I want to improve this range here of flexing forward, there's muscles in the front here of my forearm when I flex forward that shorten. All of this stuff shortens, and then all of the muscles on the backside, they really lengthen in this movement. So the overcoming isometric will always focus on the shortening side of the joint and nothing else.
Yeah.
So I will try to get a very big engagement out of the shortening tissues here and actually overcome the stretch reflex actively. So I take my range, let's say this is my range, and then I block myself completely with, you know, an object, something that I cannot overcome. So I try to drive into that immovable object with as much force as I safely can produce. So that would be flexion, but I am not moving. And all of these shortening tissues, they light up because the body is like looking for more and more motor units to recruit. Like, let's
Yeah.
go, let's complete this task. The body
Yeah.
likes to complete this task,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
can't do it. But you will end up with a good, fully functioning joint. And after driving down for maybe, let's say 3 by 5 seconds or 3 by 10 seconds or whatever it is, it's always fairly high intensity. So you might do it, you're not going to do it for 30 seconds straight. Like 3 by 5 is good. 5 by 5 is good. And
With
after
like
that,
with 5 by 5, you mean 5 seconds I squeeze and then I rest
fi-
5 seconds and then I squeeze 5 seconds and then I rest.
yeah, 5 by 5, more so 5 times 5 seconds of like driving down with maybe a couple of seconds in between. Doesn't
Okay,
necessarily
okay,
have to be
that makes
five,
sense. Okay,
but
so
like, yeah,
5 seconds, 5 repetitions.
yeah. And it's a very interesting tool because it is a great way of restoring mind muscle connection,
Yeah,
as sometimes when we work in a range, especially when the range is short, like the more I flex my wrist, the more short my muscles need to work. And a lot of times we're used to work mid-range, like here, but we're
yeah,
not used to work here.
yeah, yeah,
So if I block my hand and I work into this position, I kind of get the brain to go looking for more and more motor units, which eventually you'll end up with a fully functioning joint and your body kind of knows what to do in this position. But oftentimes you see one or two things. Either people start moving here and they cramp up completely because they're not used to, this thing, and then um, it'll go away. Just if you cramp up, it happens, it'll go away.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and either the other thing is you don't feel like anything at all. Like you don't know, you have no connection with it. You don't know what to do. You don't
Yeah,
really feel anything. And after a couple of sets or a couple of sessions, you really start feeling the activation, and that is that mind muscle connection kicking in. So yeah, it's safe. It's good for mind muscle, and
and it's also
you
like, sorry if I interrupt you.
no
It's
worries.
also like something that works much similar to a PNF. It's like relaxing the muscles which are involved in the stretch. So, for example, in your example of the wrist, if you do this kind of motion here, the stretching effect is on the wrist extensors here. So you're stretching this side. In a PNF,
Mhm.
you push this way, so you
Yeah.
push up, okay, and you contract the muscles to relax them. And this kind of motion here is the complete reverse. So it's kind of doing the exact opposite. But
Yeah.
the final result is the same because you finish up like relaxing this side.
Yeah, yeah, you end up doing that as well because the activation of the shortening tissues mean like uh they're like, oh, I can relax. It's safe.
Yeah,
There is something
yeah,
happening here. We have control. And that is like a good sign to the brain who, allows or doesn't allow
absolutely.
anything in this flexibility thing. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's interesting.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I really enjoy using this kind of technique here, the overcoming isometric, or I call it the antagonist contraction. I think it's kind of different sometimes, but the concept is the same. You squeeze the antagonist muscles of the ones like involved in the stretches. So if you're involved in the extensors, you squeeze the flexors. So I like to use it paired with the PNF. So I use the PNF, and I use also right after the PNF the overcoming to like I don't know, to understand what are the muscles in the stretch and also what are the opposite muscles, and to like produce a huge like sensation of relaxation, of like activation on that joint and on the opposite muscles as well.
Yeah, you definitely learn how to control, both sides of the spectrum if you play with these two things in within the same session, targeting the lengthening side, targeting the shortening side. I definitely do the same thing. It depends on the area of the body, but yeah, just picking a drill that focuses on the shortening side, and then picking a drill that focuses on the lengthening side, be it PNF or be it even just a strength drill, like for example, a leg lift for the hips, and then a Jefferson curl, for example. Like both sides are targeted, and it's great, and it works really well, and it's time efficient because you're not necessarily doing very, very long stretches. You're working within a very doable time frame, but because it's a little bit more intense, you're not like, okay, I'm gonna hold this for 5 minutes or whatever. It's an efficient way of moving and working.
Absolutely. Okay, so the overcoming isometrics are, as you said, beginner friendly, but I've seen also using them to like improve the splits or to improve like other ranges like shoulders flexion, etc. So you said like you need to push onto something. So for example, I don't know, if in the case of the wrist, I go here and then I try to squeeze and to push to produce this kind of overcoming isometric. But do you think that also in other positions where you can't push against something, I don't know, I mean, the splits are really easy examples to understand, and most of the times we can like take them as an example to understand better the situation. But I mean, there are a lot of stretches out there where you can apply these concepts. But like in a split, do you think that the overcoming isometrics can also be a good thing to do, a good
thing to do,
methodology to use?
I would for splits more. I only do it if I can essentially really block myself with weights, with a person, with fucking kettlebells, walls, anything is the only way I essentially do it. Because just when you are able to really block a body part and drive into that immovable front or object, it has its best effect. So but yeah, you could, like, if even let's say you're in a middle split and I haven't done this, but like let's say you're in a middle split, you're quite close. You're quite close, and then you know your hips are to the side, and you put plates 25 inches on each knee, and you try to actively open up further. Engage the hip flexors, you will engage the glutes, you will engage everything that is needed to actively bleed further. So it definitely could work. And the same, the front will target the hip extensors, target the hip flexors. It can all work if you're inventive enough. You can find ways of doing it for sure. But usually in the big positions, I play with some other things. But But man, you can use it if you're inventive, if you can, every range, every position can be done.
Absolutely. For example, I use them a lot during the split. So both the middle split and the front split, I find it really useful as I am in the position, especially in the middle split. I try to squeeze my glutes as hard as I can, and also my quads to open my legs even more. And this gives me like a sensation of control and a sensation of, okay, I'm in this position and I feel what I'm stretching, and I feel that I am comfortable in the position, and I can move my joints in the right way. If I squeeze my muscles, if I stay only passively in the position, then I feel okay. Sometimes I feel stiffer. So you know what I mean? So I stay just
Definitely.
here, I just stay there passively, and I feel like, man, I'm stiffer. And if I squeeze my glutes and my hip flexors, I feel like, okay, I have more range of motion. I can control better the
Yeah,
situation here. I can stay
definitely.
better in the split. So
Yeah.
it's kind of something that helps also for me. Is something that you might think about in every stretching position. As you said, it's something you can use in almost every stretching position, because you always lengthen one side but you shorten the other side, and on that shortening side you can like apply those like overcoming isometrics or antagonist contractions. So it's kind
Yep,
of
yep, yep.
interesting because you, as you said, and that's a really good point. You learn how to control your muscles and what are the muscles involved in the stress, and that's kind of really good. That's kind of interesting, and you get used to know also better your body and how it responds
hmm
to the stressing positions.
Definitely. And that feeling of control is fairly important. The feeling of control and the feeling of safety and strength. And I see it a lot in my students and myself. Um, there and I'll take my girlfriend as an example. Um, so we're practicing front splits, and she hasn't got them yet, but she's doing very good, and she will have them this year. Um, And so what we're doing is we're doing active holds or active reps, holds, whatever, like a suspended position more. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
front leg is elevated on one yoga block and the back knee is off of the floor. It's like a suspended hold. And if she does that, just the active front split, she has way more range
Oh,
because everything is fired up, like the hamstrings are demonstrating strength. Um, the glutes are on, actively extending. She's driving into the floor. So the body is like, oh, this is an active position. I still have strength here. This is safe for me. I
yeah,
will allow. And
yeah.
she's so close to nice front splits just in that position. But let's say we take her into just a passive front split hold. The body is still like, I don't know, not really safe. Nothing's really engaged. I don't know, like, and you
Yeah.
see it often in students as well. Like they will get the active splits first, for example, and then the passive follows, which is an interesting thing to see. And it's all about the activation of muscles in positions that make it safe.
Yeah, that's something I'm really interested in, because for me, for example, it has always been the complete reverse. I at first I was able to go into the split only passively, because
Okay.
I didn't have like the strength to stay there with the strength of my muscles. Okay,
hmm
and yeah, I needed to build that strength
hmm
after. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
first I had the passive flexibility, and then I developed this strength. But for a
Yeah.
lot of people, also the other day I did like an Instagram story where I asked, for you, a middle split is easier if you put your hands on floor or if you don't. And a lot of people answered, if I don't. So this
Yes.
means that the majority of people can achieve like a better stretching position with the control and with the strength of their muscles rather
People are
than,
different, and yeah,
yeah, rather than like just staying there passively sitting there
yeah,
and saying, "Oh, okay, I'm just stretching, I'm just letting the gravity pushes me down towards the
yeah.
floor." And that's kind
Hmm.
of
That's
strange. And
interesting, huh?
yeah, that's interesting. And I think that also this changes the way you should approach the splits and whatever stretching position you want. So if you feel like you can go into a stretching position with a lot of muscles contraction and only like applying that kind of pressure, maybe you need also to work on staying passively, relaxing the CNS, because most of the time is I think the problem is you can't relax your CNS in that position. Let your muscles like relax in that position without exerting force, because force equals to control, which equals to stretch, because your brain
Hmm.
like controls your muscles, and if they lengthen too much, it is scared and it tells,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
just shorten cause the damage is near. But
Hmm.
if you teaches it how to prevent this kind of thing and to relax in that state and just lengthen, it's something valuable. I mean,
Definitely.
there are
And
two sides of the same coin, you know. You
yeah, yeah,
need
yeah, yeah.
to you need to do both. A lot of people get, and there's like there's a connection to my first question to you, which was what you think about the stretching situation in our community. And a lot of people get obsessed with only one thing. Okay, I want to get strong in the stretch, and they do squats with 200 kilos just to have strong legs. I mean, that's
Yeah,
good, man. But that's not the only thing you should do. You should like,
definitely. Yeah.
in my opinion, that's my opinion. You should figure out all the things that are in the flexibility equation, and train both, not only
Hmm.
one side and not only the other. That's
Hmm.
that's what I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all interesting because these are two stories now as well. Like you said, you had the passive first, which is
Yeah.
definitely a way that can work, and melting into positions and relaxing the nervous system can be a very good thing. And then other people, have more results in a more strengthened way.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
exactly.
so you need to just find there's context to everything. And what really is important for us, for you, for me, is finding what works in which context, and then
Exactly.
staying with it and just executing it, and going with that. Like, I have my areas as well. I do a lot of things via strength or strong positions, but I also have my areas for sure where I just need to melt into the stretch and stay there for a longer period of time,
Yeah.
learn how to breathe, learn how to relax myself, and to just melt deeper. And yeah, we just all need to find it. And there's so many ways of doing things. Like, for middle splits, you can come up with 100 exercises, but
Yeah.
oftentimes people only need one that really works well for them, and then be consistent with that one. Maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe daily. It really depends. It really depends on what drill it is and what it does. But like, oftentimes, if you find it, you only need like one good drill. And that's
And
very
that's it.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
yes, it's just searching and sticking with what really works for you, finding what really works for you.
Absolutely. That's kind of interesting, but we don't have all the night to talk about flexibility. And
Of
I
course.
really want to make sure to have you a guest here on the show regularly. So we will talk about this the next time for sure. But now I want to ask you the last question of this interview, which is, what are the three main advices you would give to like a person or someone who wants to gain more flexibility?
Hmm. I'm trying to figure, like, I'm trying to see myself like a couple of years back when I started. I'm trying to like figure out what I was gonna say to myself,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Or what
I
you
know I
tell
needed
to
some
your
advice.
students also now.
Yeah. Um, First and foremost, patience. Definitely patience, because it will take time. And people progress on different levels. Some people just, you do 8 weeks with them and oh, that's really visibly like different. Nice. Some
Yeah,
people you train 24 weeks and it's like, and it takes time. You're gonna need to think not what can I achieve in like 2 months, but what can I achieve in a year and a half, two
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Like that's really important because it's just building on stuff, just continuously building on, training, recovering, repeating. So patience, definitely. Consistency as well. That doesn't mean you need to train every day because a lot of people have the
yeah.
the feeling like, okay, I want to get splits. I will do it every day and I
Every
will get
day.
flat.
And
That's
they,
like the first thing everybody
yeah,
says.
yeah, and then they
It
come to
doesn't work
you.
like that.
And then they come to you and say, okay, I have like this kind of pain here in my legs. I can't stretch
Yeah.
anymore. Did I pull a muscle or
Yeah.
something? And you say,
Yeah.
man, you're overdoing it.
Every
You're
day.
overdoing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it maybe works for like 2 or 3 weeks, but then you're just down the hill. So consistency, not in the way of doing things every day per se, but like if you look at it on a weekly schedule, and for example, you have uh 1 or 2 middle split days in that week, fairly consistent with that, you move on. Like, don't skip 3 weeks and then two
Yeah.
weeks on, and then, you need some form of consistency, but with that consistency, also good auto regulation, because, you will always have days that you feel really strong and days that you feel really weak. You feel better, you feel worse, and it's just the way. Maybe you slept good, but your training is shit, or you slept bad, but your training is great. So,
Yeah.
every session is also a little bit, feeling it out. How do I feel today? So, maybe auto regulation is then the third point. Consistency, patience, and auto regulation, because you cannot be better than yourself than you were in the previous session every time. You will
Yeah.
go up, but your progress will, you'll go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, but eventually you'll go up.
You'll
And
go
I
up. Yeah.
definitely, I needed to hear this because I can't push myself really, really hard, but it did more damage over the years. And if I knew before what I know now, my body would have been completely different by now in the time that I've already invested. Um, so yeah, those three things are really important
But your mistakes
to me.
are also why you maybe understand certain things and also can teach to
Yeah,
others how to avoid those mistakes and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But these are
Yeah, I
really,
definitely.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I
No,
definitely like to think that a coach gets better by having made a lot of mistakes as well, and then
yeah,
learning from those. And
yeah, exactly,
that's a
exactly,
good thing.
absolutely, absolutely. And these are really three huge, like, uh, three huge advices you can give people. So it's kind of crazy to hear that from you, cause it means that you're such a skilled coach, which is not only on the how, but it's only on the mindset, but it's also on the mindset. So just
Yeah,
thinking
definitely.
about the training, thinking about the things we are doing, thinking about all the stuff with which is going on in your head, which is really
Mm.
important to understand to progress further and to achieve a greater level of flexibility as well, etc. So these are three pieces of advice which are really really important because people need to understand the mindset first and then the training.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions in the
Yeah.
mindset. There's a lot of people that think that it's going to come fast. If I just dedicate myself, I'm going to be flexible in a couple of months. No, you're not. Like, and a lot of people also think like I need to do stuff every day. And, probably not, because there's a lot of concepts and a lot of stuff every day will just hurt yourself. And like, but you see it like in the yeah, people just have a lot of things they think about it that need to be adjusted in their
Yeah.
minds first.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the case with me as well when I started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I want to thank you for being here for this amazing interview. I had such a really a good time listening to what you taught us and what you like experienced in the past and in your training career as a coach, as a practitioner. Such an amazing kind of content here, and I
Thank
really
you.
want to thank you for your information. Now, again, I want to have you here on the Mobility Academy show regularly, so please come another time. And with that said,
Sure thing.
I leave the last words to you. Just say whatever you want, just to end up this amazing interview, and I will catch you in the next interview.
Yeah, man. Well, I just want to thank you for having me, man. Like it's been good. We don't really know each other, but we do know each other, and that's the power
Yeah,
of Instagram and meeting like this. You're
yeah,
in
yeah,
Italy,
yeah.
I'm in Belgium, but it's always fun meeting good, solid practitioners like yourself, good teachers, and so thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man. Bye.
Ciao.
So guys, that's all for this interview. I've had such a great time talking with this amazing guy here, and I hope that you have enjoyed our conversation. I want to remind you that you can follow us on Instagram and you can leave a comment if you have any further questions, so please do it. With that said, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next episode of the Mobility Academy show.